Greetings, greetings. I'm just going to keep going greetings because I accidentally kept it muted for a second. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Hope we're all good. Clearly this image is a little off, and I'm going to readjust that just right now. Welcome. Yes, I have returned. Good to see you. Yes. Yes, I have returned from the frozen north. It was a long and very arduous trip. No. It was fine. Yeah, no, it's not frozen yet and may never be frozen again. But I am back. I hope you guys didn't go too wild without me. Okay, 1 second. You know, I did that so I would get a little bit of exercise, and then I actually did go to the gym today. Like, no, I'm not fronting. I legitimately went to the gym today. So I'm like, oh, I don't want it. I get it. I don't have to do it again. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. Delicious, delicious red rum. Anyways. How was everybody? Yeah. Canada was Canada. I was one of the younger people there. I spent most of the weekend. No, I'm not doing that again. No. Not happening. Not happening. No, don't want to do that. We're going to sit down and we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to sit down and talk to people. That's what I want to do. Yeah, I'm not doing it. Yeah. Anyways. Don't play those games. I don't like those games. Let's see. New rewards, channel points. Delete. Done. Anyways. How's everybody doing? Yeah, look for it. See what happens. So it was a very long trip. It was fine. I was, as I was saying, it's like I was probably the youngest person. I was, like, it was me. Most of the time I spent with nobody on that. Most of my aunts and uncles. I have no aunts and uncles who are under 70 now. So it's So I was by far the youngest person there. Yeah, I mean it's good. I'm happy that all my aunts and uncles are still with us, but it It is quite funny. I saw my cousin Catherine, who I was always very close to. Me and Catherine are about. Catherine was only 2 years older. Catherine's only about 3 years older than me, so we've always been quite close. She has a kid now, which is weird. I met the kid. It was the first time I'm meeting the kid. Apparently, apparently my aunt has been showing him my YouTube and TikTok videos, which is great, just great. Okay. Okay, good. Anyways. No, I have the fan on because it's hot. That's what's going on. Was it that? Was it that? Anyways. So, what we have here is this is on a desk. This is on a desk, and it's a pull out. It's a pull out thing, and what I have to do to get all this set up is the handles. You see the handles kind of drape here, and that's just the unfortunate way that the setup has to happen. I try not to move so much so that people don't hear it all that often, but it occasionally pops up. The fan, on the other hand, is there because it's very hot these days, and I need to put it on. And that's just the way life is. Now, let's have a good time. Anyways. So. Oh, what did they say? Oh, that's awesome. Do you ever watch streams on TikTok? Oh, that's great. Yeah, when I was on TikTok, I tried to do some streaming. They're so, like, particular with everything, though, it kind of drove me crazy. Yeah. Not to me. No, thank you, obviously. Well, that's fun. What was she doing? Yeah. Now coffee's the epicenter of all this stuff. I think, like, my true blue opinion is I think coffee is, like, the actual homegrown success of, like, the Twitch Writers Network. If coffee is here right now, we're saying very complimentary things about you. No, coffee isn't here. Yeah, they are. It's why, like, I don't know. Like, personally, in my opinion, I've been trying to a little bit. Well, they pop up quite frequently. Like, like, I have a thought. I honestly think with the writing thing, I maybe have gone as far as I can with where it can take me on here. I don't know. So what should we draw today? Capybara? Sure. Let's draw a capybara. What if I draw What if I draw Optimus Prime in a dress? That by the way, my little cousin has informed me that that is his favorite character, is Optimus Prime. Yeah, I mean, he's 5, so. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's sort of a surreal. I don't know. Do you guys have family? I don't know how old everybody is, but do you guys have family members that are? I don't know. It's a very strange feeling to have family members who are now like adults, like people you grew up with who are like grown ups now with their own kids and stuff. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But it's a weird feeling. It's a very strange feeling. I'll say that. Of course, that's all any of the. No, I shouldn't say that. That's it now. But yeah, it was. I don't know. I'm just happy. It was good to see everybody, and the fact that like. Well, that's good. Well, not good. Optimus Prime wearing a dress, obviously. Optimus can't look beautiful? I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this fella. I got this. I got this reference picture here, and I'm looking at him, and you realize that even though he's a robot from space, they gave him abs. You notice that they gave him abs? I always find that so funny that they have to give the robots abs. Like, you ever notice on like Iron Man's, like Iron Man or Batman or stuff like that, they also give them abs? Like if they ever have like Iron Man's suit has built-in abs. Why do you need abs on the sexiest robot? Yes, I guess robots must be sexy at all times. When you were a kid, did you think that there was that robot Transformers were on, like for a long time they didn't really show female Transformers all that often? And I wondered about I. That's true. That's true. Of course, I just like the idea that he's like. They never show that scene in the Marvel movies where it's like Tony's like, well, yes, okay. I see that my suit is done and it's perfect and it's complete, but how will they know I'm cut? Well, Mr. Stark, I think it'd be. Yeah, but where the abs? The abs. The ladies are gonna be need to see this stuff. Mr. Stark. Okay, that feels like it really should be a scene in the Marvel movie now, where they discuss putting abs on his suit. I have failed Nano every year. Is it coming up again? Oh, geez, it's coming up again, isn't it? It's November. Right, it's almost November. I could try. Are you gonna do Nano this year? I could try. Yes, National Novel Writing Month, my good man. NaNoWriMo is the full thing. And Callie, hello, hello, hello. Good to see you. Yeah, I mean, fail is good. Fail is strong. Failing means you still succeed. I could try and come up. I could try Nano again this year. I would mostly dictate it, but who knows? Maybe that could work. Hello, hello, the good Kelly man. How are things going? So, National Novel Writing Month, Brother B, is where you try and write 50,000 words in a month, in the month of November, and you keep track of it on a website on the website. It's fun. It's stressful. I get mad and angry halfway. I let the stress get to me every year halfway through, and I quit. Well, because he's Bigfoot. I used to be Bigfoot, so I always call him Brother B. No, it can just be one long word. Yeah, you can just do one really long. It could just be one word that. Yeah, what if you did like just a single word that was. Anyways, Callie, how are things going? Yes, he's a real Bigfoot. He was carved out of wood, and then a blue fairy made him a real Bigfoot. Yes, he's Pinocchio Bigfoot. That's part of his storyline. I'm adding to the lore. Pinocchio foot. What? Okay. So, do you have it? So, are you going to be working on this fantasy series thing that you've been telling me about? I could come up with something. I could come up with something for National Novel Writing Month. That might be fun. Big Pinocchio foot. Big Footnocchio. Tell me about your Pinocchio dream. And have you guys seen the anime, like the Dark Souls Pinocchio retelling that they're going to be doing? That weirdly might actually turn out to be okay. That channel doesn't exist. I'm actually kind of fascinated by it. Oh, so they've announced that they are doing let's see. Gameplay. Just a second. I think it's called Life of P. Yes, that's it.
Many lies would you tell? How many lies would you tell? How many enemies would you face? How many battles would you endure? How many victories? How many failures? How many broken hearts? How many atrocities? How many lies would you tell? To be human.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, Tom Servo Crow, how's it going, my bud? You. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Yes. I'm quite fascinated by that game. That is the new edgy Pinocchio game that's going to be Dark Souls. And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, how many lies would you tell? You tell a million lies. Yeah, Pinocchio souls. It's called The Lies of P. It's literally a Pinocchio game, though. It's literally a Dark Souls Pinocchio game. How Servo, my... Exactly. I am curious how they're going to handle that. Servo. How is your game going? If you guys don't know, over here, Tom Servo Crow is making his own fighting game. Well, obviously it will be very edgy and Dark Souls-esque. That's good. Yeah, well, I'm curious. Yeah, the fantasy thing that you've been talking about for a while. The one where I was helping you out a little bit. Nice. Yeah, Servo here. Sorry, why can't I say it? Crow here is a great artist and is doing some great animation. You're hand drawing it all, right? What's the one? What's the one with the the royal houses and Succession that we've been talking about? That's very good. Tom, you may appreciate this, by the way. I just picked up a little book. Does anybody read the Onion's Kelly cartoons? Yeah. If you guys don't know who Stan Kelly is of course the greatest cartoonist in America who talks the truth. And now he's a it's a parody comic, kind of parodying right wing shit, political comics. So everything is horrible. The basic premise is that Stan Kelly is this hopelessly out of touch loser who hates everything. Sure, yeah, I'll give Tom a shout out. And he's so it's there's this. Can you see that? The real Lincoln Monument. I'm gonna give Tom a shout out. And one, you're a mod hero, but you have you have an ability to officially shout out Tom. / shout out. I think you should have that ability. There you go. Everybody go follow Tom. Yeah. I love The Onion. Well, I loved The Onion. The Onion used to be my favorite thing in the world. It's fallen severely downhill as of late, unfortunately. It got sold to kind of got sold to kind of yes, private equity vultures. Yes, we should all celebrate Tom. I did. Haha. Yeah, I already did it. You wasted it for nothing. For nothing. What was that voice? Well, it is when it's a private bot. But Twitch added that capability to its own commands recently, so you can just do you don't have to use a bot anymore to do that sort of thing. Congratulations, Callie. What's been life with? That's good. I know, right? Yes, you can. So, Callie, are you gonna join us in the Nano now? Well, then do it again, Callie. Do it again. Well, Opus, if you're doing it this... Keep doing it forever. You must forever contribute words. That is your only goal in life. Oh, Tom! It's lovely seeing you. Everybody go follow Tom. Failure is good. Failure is good. Listen, you just kind of keep failing. I always have this theory. There's a great quote that I'm gonna misremember from Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl was the drummer for a little band called Nirvana, and he had a pretty great quote about it. He said that Nirvana was a crappy garage band for years, but they kept being a crappy garage band long enough that they stopped being one. And I'm like, I honestly don't know if do people still know Nirvana? It is a good quote. Yeah. Well, I use you as my barometer for what young people know, so. I would think I don't know. I say that, and Kurt Cobain died the year after I was born, so it's like I didn't know him all that well too. Oh, yeah, it's good. I mean, your music is good, so I kind of want them to survive. Hey, by the way, if I want to talk about this very briefly. Collective Internet, the fact that the Collective Internet decided, apparently while I wasn't paying attention, to start massively bullying a 16-year-old child who streams online, not super cool that you did that. Fortunately, the streamer Cupcake, I believe is their name, is doing fine. They rode this whole backlash to 1 million follows, so they don't need anybody defending them. But the fact that there was a real popular TikTok and Xter trend just recently of making fun of a 16-year-old streamer, not cool. Not cool. A little bit weirdly shitty. Yeah, I had just learned about this yesterday, that they were doing this. Kind of regret all the time. Yeah. The fact that it was adults doing it really infuriates me. I hate my own generation. Yes, they should know better. But my generation apparently likes to be weird and shitty about things. I have this weird thing. Like, okay, so people talk now. Like, there are people who are younger people. I would consider them like older Gen Z or younger millennials. But they talk about like, oh my god, there are these legends of people, like these like gods of YouTubers, and then they would show like some dude playing Minecraft. And I'm like, this is... And like, okay, so I was 19 years old when Minecraft became available. I wasn't really watching YouTube of Minecraft streamers all that much. Was not that interested in it. And the fact that now, like, people are like, oh man, I found a lot of them. Not that there are people like, oh man, there's so many classic guys now who are just playing like Minecraft. I'm like, really? And in my mind, Minecraft is still sort of like a newish phenomenon. And I know that's just because I'm old, but yeah, I'm just I know that it's because I'm old now, but it's funny to me. And it's like it's like, well, it's funny to me because like the thing was that they were all complaining about. It's like, this YouTuber is like being loud, and this YouTuber is being loud on screaming and yelling in Minecraft Let's Play, and I'm like, that's a new phenomenon with Minecraft Let's Plays, because that used to be, yeah. Oh, I'm sure there's plenty of funny ones. I have played Minecraft. I have played quite a lot of Minecraft in my time. But I was never super into it, so. I have been tempted to play Minecraft on here just because I know it's popular. Oh, that's fun. Oh, yes, of course. And I lied. I said I was 30 years old. Yeah. I'm 31. There we go. There's our boy Optimus. There's our boy Optimus in a dress. I think he looks beautiful. I could ink him, but I'll ink him for a bit. If people pay me a bit, I'll go out and ink him. Yes, a beautiful flowery dress. What should we draw now? Maybe. We could, I guess. Sure, let's draw Bigfoot riding a tiger. Anyways, what was I saying? Was it that I have to go to the bathroom really quickly right now? Because that's kind of what I have to do. Be back in a sec. And we're back. Sorry about that. Nature called right at that second. And I listen to nature. That's why when I go to bed, I always rotate around my bed 3 times to make sure that there are no snakes staying there. I know, I'm so cool. So, let's see. About my trip. I tried streaming from there. Like, I tried streaming while walking in Saskatoon. And I found it, I don't know, I've once or twice thought it would be fun to, like, stream while just walking and hanging out in a city. But I always find it so awkward, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I have had thoughts about, like, live streaming from... At some point, I want to start traveling again. Or travel and maybe stream from those locations. So I gotta figure out a way to make that entertaining. So tell me. I want to ask about your nano book. So how long have you been working on this project? This is the one we've been like I've been helping you a little bit with like royal houses and stuff, right? Ah. That's good. That's good. Is the crown is she a commoner or another royal? Because that happened once. A crown prince married a royal. It's a crown prince married a commoner. It was well, that situation was a disaster too. I was going to point out that William the Conqueror or William the Bastard is probably the best known, if you're curious. Anyway, I don't know what your story is about exactly, but... Ah. Oh, so is she like Is she born out of wedlock? An affair? Yes. I was reading about Henry. Sure. Oh, so it's a curse. I was reading about. I was, yeah. Makes sense, makes sense. You did cause me to end up reading about Henry VIII's secret love child son. I got briefly fascinated with him. Yeah. So, do you know who Henry VIII is? Very basically. Henry VIII is the famous one with all the wives he killed. So Henry VIII, of the House of Tudor, was King of England, and he's quite famous for a bunch of things. But his most famous act was he broke away from the Catholic Church and formed the Church of England. There we go. He had, I believe, he had five wives, because he kept trying to have a son, and there kept being problems with that. But on top of that, he was also and several of them ended up getting killed. He executed several of them. There we go. There's Bigfoot. Anyway, so he had a, he was also having affairs like crazy, because that's what kings do. And he had a son through an affair, and this was a big issue, which was good in a way for him, because that meant he could in some way, okay, so Henry VIII's whole thing is he wants a son. He's desperate for a son. And it's just not happening for him. He has, he has mostly daughters, including who will eventually succeed him, Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth I, not the one that just died. Yeah. Well, the problem is, if we want to really get into the weeds here, and this is the attitudes of the time. This is very sexist attitudes of the time. They often. So there's a few issues here, and Henry had sort of figured out how to fix some of them. He had came up with a bunch of succession laws that basically said, boys first, and if no boys, then oldest girl. Oldest boys first, then if that doesn't work out, girls. So England, you have to remember, had a massively huge, horrible civil war that came from when a king when the king tried to put Matilda on Empress Matilda on the throne. If you're curious, that's what House of the Dragon is based around. The Game of Thrones show, that's House of the Dragon. But anyways, so the whole Matilda issue meant that it was seen as yeah. So I'm saying that the time was really sexist, but it could. Yeah, they were that pissed off. So you got to remember, in this attitude, like, Henry VIII is maybe a little bit thinking like, oh God, I don't want that to happen again. So I really need to make sure I have a boy. And eventually he does. It doesn't really stop what he was trying to prevent, but he does eventually have a boy. And but he had this son. He had this son outside of marriage, and they were having all these issues with, like, okay, so basically the Tudor crisis is this. Henry's wife, Isabella, was older. No, that's not fair to say, but that's what the issue. Henry's wife was having only had 2 girls and no boys, and she was a good 20 years older than him. And there was a good constant miscarriages, so there was like a lot of problems. Oh, God. Now that makes me sound sexist. I don't mean to sound sexist. But the time is sexist. The time is sexist. And trying to explain why these people did these things make you sound awful. But his wife was having kept having miscarriages, and Henry really wanted a divorce. But the problem is, his wife was the aunt of the... Yeah. Yeah, it's always like, well, his wife was the aunt of the Holy Roman Emperor, so that he wasn't going to be allowed to have a divorce. And the reason why... it's so complicated. Okay. Back further. Henry was not supposed to inherit the throne. Henry was the younger brother of his dad, and he had an older brother named Arthur, and Arthur was meant to inherit the throne. And his dad had worked out a peace agreement with Spain, and he married his older his older brother was married off to Catherine of Aragon, who I forget exactly what who she was related to, what she was, I think. But no, she was a princess. And that's all well and good. The problem is Arthur dies, and the throne moves to Henry. But his father really wanted to keep that alliance going. So he's like, why don't we just, have my 8-year-old son get engaged to this fully grown woman? That'll work. So that's... Now, there is a law in the Catholic Church that says you cannot marry your in-laws. And the Pope had made an exception for that. But, so this created a problem as when they finally did get married, and they started having kids. This created a problem specifically for Harry and the sexist times that he existed in. When they started having kids, they were all girls. And of course, Harry, no, that's not happening. And she was getting older, and she kept having miscarriages, which in like normal human society is fine. It's fine. They had kids. It's okay. But that Henry can't deal with that. And he's been having affairs all over the place, including with a lady named Anne Boleyn. And he really wants a divorce from his wife, Catherine. Now, second problem. Catherine of Aragon is the aunt of the Holy Roman Emperor. And the Holy Roman Emperor is not going to have his aunt embarrassed by being divorced like this. So the divorce will not happen, no matter what, and the Pope does not allow that to happen. Now, the Holy Roman Emperor. Have I explained who the Holy Roman? Anyways, let's just say the Holy Roman Emperor, pretty powerful guy. Pretty powerful dude. Anyways, let's see. So, one of the reasons why he wanted a divorce was because he was having an affair with a woman named Anne Boleyn, and Anne Boleyn had kind of gotten pregnant. So he decided to break away from England, from Rome, and form his own church, and that became the Church of England, or the Anglicans. And so he could divorce at his leisure, and that's how the church became Protestant. Anyways, how did I start all this? Right. So he has kids. Anne Boleyn has a daughter by the name of Elizabeth. This, of course, is heartbreaking to Henry because he really wanted a son, and then a bunch of other things happen, and Anne Boleyn ends up on the execution chamber. Anyway, so one of the ideas that they proposed. But before all this happened, one of the ideas that they proposed was they would once again waive the rules of incest, because the reason that it's banned to marry your in-laws is because it's considered incest in the eyes of the church. Anyways, so instead of letting him have a divorce, they were going to be like, you know what we can do? You have this illegitimate son. Why don't we just have him marry your daughter? The Pope would be okay with that. So instead of just letting a woman rule, they were like, yeah, let's marry two siblings together. That'll fix all the problems. Right? Yeah. Well, the thing is, a lot of royals are actually very inbred. Yes, they are literally siblings, but they were going to be... It was cool for that one instance. Instead of just letting a woman rule in her own right, they had to, like, make her marry her brother. Exactly, right? I know. It's fucked up and weird. To Henry's credit, he didn't go along with that idea. He did a lot of bad things, but he decided not to do that idea. But isn't that fucked up? Yeah. Ain't history grand? I believe that's in fact a plot point they're using in House of the Dragon. I haven't finished the first season of House of Dragon, so, but I believe that's a pretty plot point that's going on right now. That happened. That was a proposed solution. That just marry the brother and sister off. Yeah, that was a real thing. Politics, history. See, the thing about it is the royalty is all really inbred. That's always the joke, really, is that they're always super inbred eventually. Because they just all married each other. And she, I believe... Catherine of Aragon, she was a Habsburg, right? Yeah, you should. Probably. It's a good idea. Well, make fun of that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe she was a member of the whole Habsburg, the Habsburg bullshit. The most hated royal family. Yeah. It is funny because it's like William the Conqueror, you know, the final uniter of England was a bastard. That's what makes him better than the I like William the Conqueror. I wonder if that's a controversial thing to say. Oh, definitely controversial. Don't say that's the Irish, Jesus. But yeah. I like him better than the English. I like him better than William the Goodwin. Yeah. He did a lot of bad things. You know, I'm not going to throw that out there, but I do. Yeah. Well, that's always fun. Not in the main line. I like William the Conqueror. I'll just say this. The reason I like William the Conqueror is because he ended slavery in England for a while. That's the real reason I like him. He was a horrible... He did horrible things conquering England, and terrible things conquering England and attempting to conquer Ireland. But he also ended slavery in England. So there is something to be said. That does put a pretty big plus column in his thing. He didn't have to do that. And from records indicated that he kind of demurred. But there's a lot of... Yeah, but he also did a lot of really terrible... The Norman conquest of England, I'll say, is a nightmare. And he did a lot of horrible things to do it. But that's a pretty big plus in his column, is that for a while, he ended slavery in England. It returned. Slavery returned in England, but he ended it initially. Yeah. It is funny, because, like... So, the Anglo-Saxons, had loved slavery. There's like estimates that like 10 to 20% of the population in England under Anglo-Saxon rule was enslaved people. And the Queen, you know, and like one of the last Anglo-Saxon queens was a huge slave driver. And it's when William conquered England, he initially kept going on with it, but what they say, the reason why he eventually gave it up is his priest and tutor Ludwig. He was actually an Italian guy, but I think kind of guilted him into stopping it. So very basically William's story, and I don't know if you'll use this, but it's a good story. So there's a lot of people base like fantasy characters on William just because of his basic story. So William the Conqueror was known as William the Bastard, and he was the Duke of Normandy, and he was a cousin to the former king of. He was, I believe, a cousin to the former king of England. So and they call him William the Bastard because he was a bastard. His father had no children except for William, and William was the son of a tanner's daughter. You know, and tannering. You know what tannering is? It's leather working. that his father was having an affair with. And after this whole like incident happened, his father decides, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, aka one of the most dangerous things you could do in the medieval times. And there was a good chance he would die, and he died on his way to Jerusalem to go on pilgrimage. So at 13, William. Now, I've talked about the Normans were Vikings that landed in France, and to get them to stop bothering to stop attacking the French, they were turned into French nobles. So like they're very French, but they didn't lose the militarism of the Viking kind of era and attitude. And so William is said to have gone through maybe a fucking horrible childhood. Because he was a bastard. People really did not like that he claimed the throne, claimed the duchy. So Normandy was plunged into a just this endless civil war throughout his entire childhood. And they said 5 of his teachers, and essentially, when I say teachers, they're essentially his parents, his guardians, were killed in front of him. There was massive bloodletting, and it's kind of a miracle that he survived. But also, that type of childhood tends to do something. Tends to do something to people, and William is known for being not a super nice guy. But he's the one who managed to conquer England and hold it. So, and his descendants are still on the throne as of today. Yeah, he's the guy. So every royal after him everybody has a direct connection to William in some way. Way before. This was what was Henry? He was okay. Henry was his 10th removed great grandchild, I think. Or 12th removed great grandchild. Yeah. Well, they never did the inbreeding. It was just a proposed idea. So I don't know. It's hard to say nice things about medieval kings, because that means that you have to go well, yes, but also they were terrible because they were also terrible. But anyway, out of all the medieval kings, he's the most obvious guy that you could he has obvious protagonist syndrome, if you really think about it, because he's he's just this young guy. He's just this kid who he's the secret bastard son of the king. He's the bastard son of the duke, and he's been thrown into destiny because he had to be. Yeah, it's total protect. He has total protagonist syndrome. The fact that he's a big scary guy who would end up butchering a lot of people. Robin Rakin, welcome to the stream. Hello. Yo, indeed. How are things? Oh! No, no problem. Oh, yes, yes. Hi. No, no problem. Was I a little? You're the one about the cowboy who went to A&M, right? That's yours, right? That's yes, that's the fact I glommed on to is that yours is about a guy who goes to A&M. No. Oh, no problem. Sorry, I was worried I was being a little bit. Well, Opus, here's the secret. Sometimes I go to other people's streams and I hang out. Shock and twist. How's it going? How's the story going? How's your story going? I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that I helped out in some way. No, I remember yours. It's about his sister dies and he meets this other, and it's these two guys and he has to like raise this kid and stuff like raise her kid and stuff like that. How's it going? How's the story going? I hope it's going well. Let's oh. Okay, oh. It was lovely seeing you. We're going to be on for 1 trillion hours, so stop by. Yes, according to what I looked up, I will be on for the next 300 million years. So, you'll probably catch me then. So how's the story going, Robin? No, I was worried. I get too intense. I get too intense at times. No, I was worried. I was pushing too much. But no, I'm glad my nonsense helped out. Yeah. I'm going through that. I try not right now with an idea I have, but it's one of those things where it's just like it's irritating because it's like you have these vague plans in your head, and it's like, well, what's the story actually going to be about? Because you don't want it to be just like endless, like first person, like first act introduction. It's like, well, at some point the story is actually going to have to start. I think that's where people really struggle. Well, at least that's where I really struggle. It's like I can write a first act, and then it's just like, oh, what's the actual story? Yeah. Did I introduce you to the Story Circle? That's one I don't remember. Did I introduce you to the Story Circle? I usually bring that up at some point. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Who's the fanfic? Who's the fanfic? What's the fanfic for? Is it something I've heard of? You know, there's always like a special month thing that I've never heard of before that people inform me about. I'm thinking of trying. Are you gonna I'm thinking of trying maybe doing the. Are you gonna think about trying to do the National Novel Writing Month? So bad today. You know what's funny? Cool. I know Poe. I know Poe. Dare me. This is not what I know. Ugh. I used to know everything about Star Wars. Ugh. But surely, like, you can just say, like, I'm a famous writer. And they'll give you time off, right? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Surely, like, what? You just go, like, I'm a writer. Listen, you just go up to Lorne Michaels and you say to him, like, Lorne, I'm going to take this year off to work on my book. Work sucks. Why are we still doing money? Have we not figured out how to get rid of that stuff yet? Can't we just have like robots deliver everything? That works. That works. Is it like at a store or something? I don't know what that is, but I'm going to just say yes. So how is The Sims 4? I got pretty obsessed with structure a while back, so I don't know. I think about it a lot. Like, okay, who's playing Starfield, by the way? I started playing Starfield. I like it. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about like Sims games after a while. You know, I really loved The Sims 3, but there's just this little part of me that really doesn't want to give EA any money anymore. So I'm trying to not, like, don't you wish that there was like a Sims but not EA? That's my hope. That some indie people can eventually take their spot. Who here is playing Starfield? Anybody playing Starfield? I kind of like Starfield. We'll say one thing. If I could just briefly complain about Starfield. Yeah. So, Starfield is pretty fun. I will say one thing. I do get annoyed by the amount of loading screens there are. That's my biggest irritation. Like, I kind of wish you could just... Like, it's supposed to be a space sim, and, like, you can't take off from planets. It's just a loading screen and you're in space. And that irritates me. I want to I want to fly and take off from planets and land on planets all by myself. And then like, there's that little niggling thought. It's like, oh, is that like making game developers do a whole heck of a lot more work than I want. They should, because it's like, yeah. But it's the number one frustrating thing about Starfield is like just as you're doing something, loading screen, always a loading screen, and I'm like, I thought the new generation was supposed to get rid of loading screens. Why do you still have them? Yeah, EA does suck. I'm like, in a space sim, like part of the fun is like controlling the ship. Like you never, like I want to feel like I'm actually piloting a ship. I don't want to feel like a computer is doing most of the work for me, and I'm aware that in real life a computer would probably be doing most of the work for me. But this is video games. Did you ever play Fallout New Vegas? Yes, EA sucks. Okay, tell me. I remember one time, and oh man, I once played. Can I tell you guys something honestly? I once played The Sims 3 for 48 hours straight, and I didn't even realize it that I did that. I said I'll just play for a few minutes, and then I realized that I had played it for about 2 days straight. And that's when I stopped playing Sims. Because I'm like, oh boy, this hits me in a very particular way that I am not sure how to deal with. Yeah. As a kid, I really liked like simulation games, like flight simulation games. Like I really loved like the feeling of flying like a plane through stuff. And it's very frustrating nowadays because it's like, well, simulators got kind of ruined by. It's hard to find a good simulator now because people are terrible. Yeah. I've never. Yeah. Well, that's the one thing. That's like my one real negative thing about. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a new That's a new thing that just happened. People just got terrible. Everybody was really good up to this point, and now people are terrible. Yeah. Well, people are terrible because like Goat Simulator got popular, so like there's all these horrible now low budget things where it's just like where somebody just bought a couple of assets and it's like chair simulator, grass simulator. These are all real things. And it's like instead of like the ultimate stuff, it's just like stupid joke like games where it's just that's been successful. That I know that's one everybody likes. So I guess simulators may. I guess hopefully that's a dead trend and they go back to actually trying to make real simulators again. But mostly, I just want a good flight sim again or a good spaceship sim. Like, I am not like. Anyways, so that's my complaint about Starfield. Does anybody remember The Outer Worlds? That was a pretty good game, and you got to do a lot more on your spaceship, but nobody played that, so we didn't get to. Not too many people played it, so. It's made by the same people who made Fallout New Vegas. Anyways, But I legitimately do like Starfield, and I know this sounds like I'm complaining about it, and I'm complaining a little bit because I don't like that feature. I don't like how restrictive the spaceship flying feels, and I don't like that it's super dependent on loading. But besides that, I really like it. Really. Well, Fallout New Vegas is one of my favorite games, but I recently replayed it for a little bit, and I have to say the graphics do not hold up particularly well. So it may be like what inspired you to jump into that whole sector, and what's your favorite been so far? So bad today in art. Good yesterday. Yeah, it's not that difficult of a skill. Yeah. That's good. Starfield is great. Yeah. Robin, I'm gonna take a guess here. I suspect that you're a fan of a certain sci-fi franchise that starts with the word star, right? I think you're a pretty big Star Trek fan, right? That's your favorite Star Trek? That's the one you like? Star Trek. No, I wouldn't say that. There are several there are several very big fans of Star Trek. No, okay. Star Trek, total trash. Robin, you're in like your 20s, right? Oh, an Unknown Soul. Thank you for the follow. I have a theory about Star Trek because I think it's quite interesting that Star Trek, which is so I have a interesting theory about Star Trek. So I think Star Trek made a really big mistake that for okay. When did Star Trek Enterprise end? Well, here's the thing. Okay, 2005. So, when did the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie come out? 2009. Oh, okay. Well, still. Yeah. So, here's the thing. What was I saying? What was that? What was I saying? So I think Star Trek made a weird, bad decision in that they stopped producing regular TV shows for a couple of years. And they stopped producing regular TV shows and movies for a couple of years right when, like, your generation and kind of my generation... I'm older than you, by a lot. No, but they stopped, like, producing TV shows right when, like, millennials were kids. And I assume Gen Z. But it's a weird thing where it's like suddenly there's no nostalgia for it in like people who aren't like old, like people who are like around the 30 and younger really. Because like they just stopped making stuff for a while, and the stuff they did make was divisive, and like the only thing they really made was the TV show, the movie. So it's a curious thing because like Star Trek is supposed to be the other big pillar of like geek culture. Yeah, but they're like Star Trek, like it's just kind of what it's like. It's supposed to be the other big pillar of geek culture, and it just stops. It just stopped for a few years, and now we have this whole generation of people, myself included, I've gone back and watched it, and I like it now, but like don't really have any sort of like nostalgia for it. And the new Star Trek they are producing is for an exclusive streaming service that nobody watches. So I just think it's interesting, Robin, that like you were kind of born in that like weird era where like Star Trek was just kind of over with for the most part, and like Star Wars totally it is like totally ran circles around Star Trek because of that. It runs circles around Star Trek now because of that, because like they worked to bring in the new generations in a much better way. Like, as a kid, I was obsessed with the movies as a kid. Like, the original trilogy. I watched them over and over again. And like, why did I, as a young child, enjoy, like, a sort of slower paced, like, 1970s movies? Because they were great and cool, and they were available easily for almost everybody. And my dad really liked it. But, like, there was no Star Trek when I was a kid. Like, well, there was, but I was too young to be into it, and by the time I would have been into it, they stopped doing it. And I just think that's so fascinating that Star Trek is like this whole like big, it's supposed to be this big part of nerd culture, and they kind of screwed up, and it's just not happening. It's going to take maybe a generation or two for it to come back. And I just, yeah. Well, that's the other big thing is that Star Wars. Yeah, I don't know. They both did, and I will say this: Star Wars had also entered kind of like the. I don't know. I love George Lucas. I think George Lucas unfairly got a lot of crap thrown at him about his initial abilities. Like, it's fair to say that he wasn't as good as a director as he was when the prequel trilogy happened, and that happens to like a lot of guys. It's very hard to stay a great director the older you get. That's a very rare occurrence. Usually great directors end up in sort of bad, like their last few films kind of suck. Usually that tends to happen. Sorry, but it's true. But it's hard. I don't know. So I think that yeah, and that's what I was going to say. So, but that's the point I was going to make. So it was not in a great place under George Lucas's stewardship. So Disney being in charge of Star Wars is in a better place than it is because there's better Star Wars being produced. But George Lucas is an eccentric weirdo who has a diverse and strange set of tastes and an almost encyclopedic knowledge of like Pulp Fiction and stuff. So there is this. It definitely feels less personal, is what I'll say. Star Wars nowadays, it feels less personal. It feels very it feels, it's good, and that doesn't mean like the shows are worse. I think they're like the TV shows that they're making are really strong, but I definitely feel like the hands of corporate culture on it. And Star Wars was always kind of corporate. The second it became a moneymaker, it became corporate, but it has changed in some ways, and it hasn't changed in other ways. I do like the shows. I do think the shows, and the fact that we have somebody who is a strong kind of voice again behind the scenes is a good idea. And I'm loath to be mean to certain people, but I don't. It's probably Fellini was probably the best choice for that. And I'm glad that he's getting the credit he deserves. There we go. That's my complicated feelings about Star Wars. I actually let my Disney Plus subscription lapse, and I'm debating whether to resubscribe again to watch the new one, because I was a big fan. So I'm a big fan of the character of Thrawn, Grand Admiral Thrawn, because I liked the books that he was introduced in quite a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's good. Like, I was a really big fan of, like, the whole Thrawn trilogy, you know, Heir to the Empire stuff. So I should watch it. Did you ever read any of, like, the old... Yeah. Did you ever read any of the old Expanded Universe, the Legends series? I do think it's fun. I will say this. I will say this. I think it's funny that they fell into the movies fell into the thing that the bad Expanded Universe stuff always did, which is just like, yeah, let's just bring back the Emperor and make new Death Stars. Like, they always did that, and it was always the worst. I think it's so funny that they fell into that trap. I'm like, you guys are professionals. What the fuck are you doing? Not that they, like... But that's the thing. They did that all the time in Legends. They did bullshit like that all the time. In the old Expanded Universe. And somehow we fell into... somehow professional screenwriters fell into that trap? Oh, I hated that movie. I didn't read that one. There were a lot. I read the Heir to the Empire stuff. I liked Timothy Zahn. I like Timothy Zahn's books. Listen, all that Star Wars needs to do to fix everything... Listen, they did one thing... They needed to fix... There's two things they need to do to fix everything, and everything will be okay. They needed to reintroduce Thrawn, which is good. They've done that, and now they need to reintroduce Mara Jade, and then Star Wars will be perfect again. And maybe just have a real actor play Luke again, young Luke. I'm fine. I don't want CGI. I don't want CGI zombie Luke. I want normal Luke that is a human. Have Sebastian Stan play him. I don't. It's fine. Like. I hate those deepfake. I hate the deepfake things that they're doing. I find that really creepy. Yeah. They should. Yeah, like, I like that they're bringing back at least like some of the good ideas that the old Expanded Universe had. I'm sure they're paying the people that created them. I'm sure that they're paying the people that created them money to use their creations. I'm sure that's what Disney is doing. Right. I'm sure that the people who created these ideas are getting royalties, right? For creating them. I'm sure that's what's happening. Yeah, they're one of the people. Yes, definitely. They're one of the people who are striking. So Disney. So this seems to be forgotten now, that what Disney tried to pull with the old Expanded Universe stuff. Let's see, it was Alan Dean Foster, right? Alan Dean Foster. Oh, they tried really hard to get out of No, Disney does not. Well, they kind of got forced to pay. So, if people are curious what I'm referring to, this was when was this? So basically, Disney was trying to. So like, there's all these old books out there. Yeah. Yeah. How do you think they got so rich? That's what they all do. They all try and pull this bullshit. So basically, when Disney first acquired Fox and Star Wars and all that stuff, they tried to argue that they didn't have to pay royalties to the writers of the old expanded universe, because they had only bought the rights to the books, not the contracts. Yeah. It's so great. Listen, I'm sure the fact that Disney is like, yeah, like when a video game commenter, Stephanie Sterling, once said, it's like, think about it this way: EA is government subsidized. EA doesn't pay taxes, so that means EA is government subsidized. Isn't it fun? That we as the American people are paying for EA. Yeah, but they tried to pull this like bullshit. Anyway, so they tried to pull this bullshit where it's like they were gonna pay like royalties on old expanded universe stuff and like old novelizations. So no, I don't think Disney is 100%. I don't know what the actual thing is, but I know Disney tries to fuck people over. Like, you cannot convince me that Disney's recent push into doing deepfake stuff is because the hope is eventually what their hope is that they will no longer have to pay actors like royalties and likeness rights, that they'll create a series of like digital actors that they'll own completely, and then they don't have to do anything for that. I will say this, Robin. If they'd done some of the stories, Legends was pretty bad in many instances. Like, Legends got really bad really, really quickly. There's a lot of crap in Legends that I'm fine that we got rid of. But there was. And it seems that the philosophy now is that they're just bringing over any of Legends' legitimately good ideas. So, like, The Mandalorian comes from, Legends. That whole thing is based around a few, and it seems that we're bringing like the Heir to the Empire stuff in. That's like the Heir to the Empire stuff is going to happen, so that's good. I don't really care about Star Wars Rebels all that much. Like, I'm not super I was mostly apathetic to the show, but I'll probably give it a watch. But yeah, Poe Dameron is good. No, I'm happy that they're all. Yeah, I know. That's my motivation for seeing it, is that I like Thrawn. Well, I like Thrawn because I think Thrawn is a good villain for Star Wars. He's a much more cold, calculating guy, and we needed that. Okay. I'm just gonna throw this out there. I hated the First Order. I thought they were bad villains. I thought my problem with like the First Order is like I don't know what they were. Like they changed it so much what the First Order was actually doing. Like they seem to have no motivation other than just continuing to be the Empire. Like okay, because like okay, Force Awakens establishes that the First Order is like the final remnants of the Empire, basically. Like they're a small group of planets that the Empire still controls, and they've been waging like war on the new alliance and the like the new Galactic Republic, and that's I like that idea. I like that idea. I like the idea that, and so what the story probably should be is like the alliance. So the problem is like the Galactic Alliance has to lose for a while for all this to make sense, and that means that the First Order has to have like good villains, and outside of Kylo, like the First Order is super generic, and that's a real big problem. Like Kylo, great character, nailed it. He's an interesting contrast. I like Kylo Ren. He's an interesting contrast, and having Adam Driver be the villain is perfect. But then, like literally everybody else is really boring, and I don't care about them, including Snoke. Snoke was super boring. He was not an interesting character, and it was good that he got killed off because Kylo is the better character. But I don't know. Anyway, sorry. Too much. Good. Star Wars is good. I like Star Wars. I should stop complaining. Yeah. Yeah. Well, my problem. Yeah, thank you. Like people are like, oh, he could have been so cool. No, he was boring. He was a boring character that I didn't care about. I don't like that they brought Palpatine back. Yeah. Yeah, he was okay. That's the problem. That's the problem, though. Like, but then randomly they just kill him off. Like, they just randomly kill him off, and then there's like Phantasma, who's like they hype up quite a lot, and then she does absolutely nothing the whole thing. I'm like, what was the point of her? She had a cool look. I like that actress a lot. She was in Game of Thrones, and she does absolutely nothing the whole thing. It's like, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but I think them bringing back Palpatine shows a clear issue in that it's like, they didn't create any good villains on their own. Like, the second you saw Darth Vader was instantly iconic. The second you saw, like the Emperor and Darth Vader, they were instantly iconic. But, like, the rest of the Empire is, like, the rest of the First Order is very... I hate the name, by the way, the First Order, too. I'm just going to throw that out there. I hate the name, the First... I'm sorry, this is me just complaining about Star Wars. I don't want to complain about Star Wars. I don't want to be a cliche of a white guy on the internet. But it's like, yeah. So ultimately what I'm saying is that Thrawn should have been the villain. That's part of being a Star Wars fan, is that you just complain about it all the time. That's everything in nerd culture, is like, you love it, but also you spend most of your life complaining about it. Anyways. I was thinking about this recently. Like, I don't know. I like Rey as a character, but I also, I don't know. I guess I just don't like, oh. What, you want to talk about the New 52? You want to complain about the New 52 endlessly? I could complain. Fucking hell, was the New 52 terrible. Like, I don't know. But I also, like, I'll throw this out there a little bit. As a compendium to, like, me complaining about stuff. I don't think it's particularly fair for me to go, like, well, that's not what I would have done. Like, I don't think it's really fair for a person to go, like, well, I think I could have told the story. Well, it's fair to do that, but it's also fair to go, like, well, the story in my head is really good, and it wasn't good in the version I saw. And it's like, of course not. Of course it's not good, because the version in your head will always be the perfect movie. And I just don't think it's, like, fair to go like that. So it's like, yeah. Yeah. But it's like, I don't think it's a fair... I don't like when people go like, well, this is what they should have done. Because, like, well, they didn't do that. They're not going to do that because that's the movie that exists inside your head, and it's not fair to compare that to the movie that you see, because the movie in your head will always be much better. Yeah. And I'll just say that before I go on to my next point. The movie in my head is 100% better than the movie that they did, and I know exactly what they should do. Yeah. I'm like a lot like that too, where it's just like, no, it's there, it exists. Like, because I was thinking, like, wouldn't it be great if, like, you started off, like, in a normal part of, like, the Empire? Yeah. Yeah. And a normal part of the Republic, and it got conquered. Like, it got, I don't know. Like, a real problem I had with Force Awakens is that it's like, we spend so long on that planet, and it's like, I don't care about that planet. Like with Luke in the original movies, which is, you know, still probably the best. We spend quite a lot of time with Luke in his, like, normal everyday life. We see his restlessness and his desire to go beyond, like, where he was, and it's like, you know, and we really feel that with him, and it's like, but it's also like, it's sympathetic and understandable what he's doing, whereas, like, with Rey, like nobody wants to, that her life is fucking terrible and she should leave, and her like, just going about, like, I just need to get back home. It's like, nobody wants that. Nobody would want that. I don't know. That's my problem with that. Like, I get Rey is like, Rey wants to, like, go back to the planet because she thinks her parents will come back, but I don't know. It's just, you know, it's Star Wars does a lot of things really right. The original Star Wars movies does a lot of things really right. It's a very good setup, and it comes from, like, Lucas being hyper obsessed with, like, structure. Like, this, the second you, like, oh my god, that drove me up a wall. Okay, so, listen, I know, like, ships and stuff are, like, things, but, and So Finn, yeah, I think was very clearly written to be Rey's romantic interest. I think by the time like the movie happening and the filming happening, Finn and Poe displayed a lot of pretty good chemistry. But I think initially Finn was it was very clearly intentional that Finn was written as Finn was written as the love interest for Rey. But here's the thing. Oh, how to best talk about this without people yelling at me. Hollywood can be really racist, and they didn't want to have an interracial couple. There we go. That's the best way to put it sensitively. And I think that's why they did that. It's like, they cast John Boyega, who I think is a good actor and was well chosen for the role. And it's like, oh, but our lead is white, and so we can't, because then people won't go to see it. And the fact that Disney then, like, acquiesced to a bunch of, like, shitty racists for Force Awakens. So they didn't do that part. So, like, suddenly, like, one of Finn's main roles to be Rey's romantic interest gets completely neutered, and so Finn now has nothing to do in the show, in the movies. And I think John Boyega is very right to complain about that. And, yeah. Yes, everybody, I felt so bad for her. She's, I don't know. Like, I felt so bad for her. Like, she's very nice. I liked her. I like that actress a lot. I think she's very funny. I've seen her in interviews. She's very naturally quick-witted and funny. And so I'll say this may be controversial. I really love Rian Johnson as a writer and director. Knives Out are some of my favorite movies of the last few years. The Knives Out stuff are some of my favorite movies of the last few years. And so I'll say this. I think The Last Jedi is a stronger second movie in a different series. Probably a better series than... I kind of wish they had just given Rian Johnson the whole series, because whatever idea he was working with was clearly a stronger idea. But the series, unfortunately, I don't know, Force Awakens is a kind of average movie, and there's just like a lot of not that interesting stuff, and I don't know. Like, I'll say this: the twist Rian Johnson came up with about who Rey's parents is great. That's a fantastic twist. That she's just a nobody. I love that twist. I think that's such a good idea. I love the idea that it's not like she's not like genetically predestined to be like a Jedi. She was not genetically. Yeah. Yes, that's 100% problem, because I think everybody was tired and miserable. Like, Rob, have you seen the original trilogy? I don't know if people have seen the original trilogy anymore. But I'll say this, like, one of the strengths of the original trilogy is that yes, there are a lot of people who haven't, and that's fine. That's fine. Partly because the version of the original trilogy that's out there is kind of not not the best version, so that's frustrating. But I get it. It's fine. If people haven't. But I'll say this: one of the strengths of the original trilogy, is that it was made more in a. I'll say this: Star Wars comes from a very good time in filmmaking in American history. It happens to be my favorite time of favorite era of filmmaking, the New Hollywood movement, And that's a, boring film bro thing of like, in the 70s it was so good, but in the 70s it was pretty good. There was a lot of really good movies made in the 70s. And one of the things is like there was a very like prominent philosophy in like filmmaking is that you should let like improv and like like filming should be sort of like more up in the air and experimental. And it's like if you read about the original trilogy, like one of the things that becomes very obvious is that George Lucas is very bad at dialogue, and none of the actors wanted to do it. So a lot of the dialogue was improvised on set, and they kind of just worked it out amongst themselves. So there's a very like looser and more spontaneous feeling. And when you do stuff like that, there's a strong chemistry. There's a much stronger chemistry between the cast, I think, because of that. Because they were allowed to improvise and kind of come up with their own dialogue. And I think that means that there is a so that means like so it's a much more believable like relationship between like Han, Luke, and Leia than there is between Rey, Finn, and Poe, because like Disney takes it over, and it's like it gets turned into this like more corporate way of filmmaking, and where it's like there's like a million writers and everybody has to approve of jokes, and there's a whole like creative committee that's in charge of stuff. And Star Wars was very much a team effort, and there's a whole lot of things. But I think one of like the keys was that like I think the actors just enjoyed themselves more, and there's a looser feeling to it, and one of my oh my god, what? Oscar Isaac. I love Oscar Isaac. Oscar Isaac is one of my favorite new actors. And he was 100% the right casting for like a Han Solo-esque character. I don't know. And he yeah. He was in one. Oh man, have you ever seen Inside Llewyn Davis? That's one of my favorite movies. I love that movie so much. But it's like like when you read reports like they were just going to kill him off. They were gonna kill him off initially. Like he wasn't supposed to let. I'm like, really? Like he seems so obvious. The third part of the. Oh well, I gotta show you something. Then I want to show you something because I think you'll let. It's a scene from. I was still muted. Was it muted? Okay, yeah. So that's Inside. Yeah, Inside Llewyn Davis. Yeah, it's a very, very, very good, great movie that I like quite a lot. Yeah, but it's like, I do like that they're doing another series with Rey, because it's like, I think it's really funny that they're doing more Rey movies because it's like, oh, of course they are, because there's like, well, we want to make sure that people like we don't want to end on such a bad note. I think it's funny because they're also doing it new. Yeah. They announced that they're going to make more movies about Rey. But Robin, you are 100% right. They did not. The main three did not have great chemistry. I agree. I don't think they had particularly good chemistry. It doesn't help that the original movies had Han Solo, had Harrison Ford, who has who can have great chemistry with almost anybody. Yeah. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe that'll happen. I do legitimately think that was an actor thing. Like, the chemistry that they had was an actor thing, not so much of a like I don't think that was meant to happen. I just think that that was the chemistry that they played it with. I mean, good for them. I they should. They have way better chemistry. Those two have way better chemistry than Rey and either of them. Yeah, they kind of are. They're not homophobic. China is homophobic, so an American company just has to do whatever China wants. So that's the only reason. Listen, all they do is they just like money more than they like people, Robin. That's the only thing. They just like money more than they like people. What are you talking about? They had the lesbian couple in Rise of the Skywalker. What are you talking about? It was there in one scene of the movie for a second that they could easily cut out of foreign releases. All the LGBT pluses have been successfully represented. All of them! What more could you want? A second or two of characters that don't get names in the movie. I don't think they. I'm sure they're named on a wiki somewhere. I'm sure their names are on a wiki. I mean, it's because they had more chemistry than anybody else in the cast. That's why. You know why not? They weren't going to let Rey end up with any of them. So, yeah. And clearly the chemistry was strong. Yeah. Exactly. No. But Robin, they introduced a girl. They introduced a girl character who Finn definitely dated, so it's all okay. Who Poe definitely dated. Yeah. And there's no such thing as bisexual people, obviously, so that doesn't exist. You're either straight or you're or you're in the back of the crowd and you're gay. It's the only thing that exists in the Star Wars universe, apparently. But in the comics, there'll be much more active representation. In the comics, there'll be a ton more representation. The thing that most people don't read all that much, that's where you'll get more representation. Not the more mainstream stuff, but the comics, it's fine. I do like the comics. I actually don't mind the new comics. I think there's some pretty strong ones out there. Yeah. I like I don't know. Well, the comics are nice because it's less restrictive, I think, on the writers and stuff. Like, I don't like, it really frustrates me that Rian Johnson, who is fucking great, has this stupid bullshit attached to him of like having a dedicated group now of haters. I don't know, that irritates me to no end. Because like, the Knives Out movies are so good. I like them so much. They're some of my favorite movies. And I'll say this: Knives Out has better, Blanc is gay, and that's officially confirmed in the movies. He has a partner and everything, and he's the main character of the series. So, have you seen the Knives Out stuff? They're really good. You should. They're on Netflix, I believe. I really like Knives Out. I was even rewatching it a little bit yesterday because I liked it so much. Anyways, I don't know. Modern like stuff frustrates me a little bit because like a lot of the great franchises that we have now are because like we had like we let like artists like create generally unburdened. Like Star Wars, you have to remember, everybody assumed Star Wars was going to fail. It was considered like a folly of Lucas. Like nobody believed in it, and then it was like the biggest hit in the world, and it became the biggest hit in the world because Lucas and his team got to do what they wanted. And we just don't get that much now anymore. We don't get like that more creative freedom that we used to have. And I don't know. It frustrates me to no end that that's the thing. Because it's like we could have had Star Wars. We could have had more like stuff like Star Wars pop up, but we don't want to do. We don't want to recreate the conditions that created Star Wars. We just want to make Star Wars. Like, okay, so when like Star Wars came out, like a ton of people tried to copy Star Wars, including Disney. Like Disney had tried more than once to create rip-off Star Wars movies. And they weren't necessarily bad, but like they never, instead of giving like a guy with an interesting vision money to make it and hoping it's a success, they always have to micromanage the shit. And now that they're in charge of Star Wars, they micromanage that shit all the time. Sorry. I was a huge Marvel Comics fan, by the way. long before Disney was a thing. I loved Marvel Comics. And there's a part of me that's happy that Marvel Comics now has like a corporate benefactor, because it's like that means they'll survive. They should survive no matter what. But there is something just very frustrating about like just we keep losing all this like I want like I don't know. I was thinking recently about let's just make original movies again. Why don't we just make original movies again? Sorry. Yeah. It doesn't. It doesn't. I don't know. Well, they'll be back sooner rather than later, hopefully. I was reading like old Star Wars comics that Marvel made. You know, surprisingly, I'll say this about the old Star Wars comics. Pretty good, actually. Like, Marvel was making pretty decent Star Wars comics. Like, they even got Alan Moore in to make a few Star Wars comics, which was very surprising. Do you know comics? I don't know what you know about comics. I'll just throw out that getting Alan Moore in to do anything is a very big deal, because he's very good, but he doesn't. He tends to be very persnickety about stuff. Listen, I know, like, you can't do big major movies without, like, corporate, like, with huge special effects, without the corporate backing of somebody like Disney. And that's just something we're going to have to learn to live with if we want these, like, big epics. And I do. I like the big epics. I like the big superhero epics. I like the big sci-fi epics. I like the big special effects stuff. Don't mind. I like blockbusters. I know that's a thing we're going to just have to do, and Disney is going to want to, like, Disney and all these people are going to want to make sure that their money is being spent right and not on stupid stuff. Yeah. So, I don't know. Yeah. I like DC, I like both DC and Marvel. I came into when I started reading comics, I came into a time where DC was in a really like rough spot, and they kept falling into problems over and over again. So, but several of my favorite characters of all time are DC characters. So, I actually think this is turning out pretty good. Do you know Stephanie Brown? Do you know Stephanie Brown? Stephanie Brown's one of my favorite. Yes, I love Stephanie Brown. Okay, true story. One of the first comics I read, one of the first comics when I started reading comics. You know what was happening? They were making Stephanie Brown Robin. That's legitimately one of the first Batman comics I read. I bought and read totally. So at the start of like her like one of her biggest pushes, I started reading. So like there's a little part of me that has been very like from that moment on I was very attached to that character, because I'm like, oh, we are journeying on this adventure together. One of the other first Batman things that I read a Batman prose novel adaptation of the No Man Land stuff, and that's where Cassandra Cain first pops up. So, like, and the fact that in comics those two are like the two, are so close, and there's a few ways to interpret that, and neither of them are necessarily wrong. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I really like that. I like how close they are. I like how well they form like contrasting characters. That's I really like that whole relationship. I like it when people get along. I like it when people get along. Like I like so. This all plays into like I like one of my favorite genre like is the Hangout movie. And one of my favorite movies is like there's this movie called Sonata I really love, and it's which one is that? Is that the webtoon one? Yeah, I don't know. I tried reading. Okay, I'm gonna say something very honest and very. I don't like Jason Todd. I don't know if that's controversial. And he's a big part of that. I was just like they talk. He's in that somewhat frequently, and I'm like, I don't like this character. I've never really liked Jason Todd. I think he worked. He's fine as a villain, but I don't like him as an antihero. Mostly, I don't know. Batman himself is already kind of a misery guts who's like, yeah. I don't know. My problem with Jason Todd is he's basically a jackass who like everybody forgives for some reason, and I just don't care about that. I don't like, and he's a big part, and I just get distracted by him. Like I just get distracted because I'm like I just don't care about this character. But I really do like, and I was, yeah. Well, that's my whole problem, and Batman already is a little bit like that. But like that's supposed to be a real negative part of his personality, and like a lot of comics are about him trying to work through that issue, whereas like Jason is like just I think keeps getting rewarded for that, and that really bugs me. And I'm there to read, I like Jason kills people. Like Jason chopped a bunch of guys. I don't know. I just like him, and so I tend to not. I don't know. I feel he's just. I'm happy the webtoon thing. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's kind of my feeling. It's like, really, you can like it can get kind of grating with Bruce. But you add just two other Bruces, and that becomes super obnoxious. And I want to read about Batman. I don't want to read about, like... Like, Tim is a good character because even though he has some of those... Tim and Dick are good characters because even though they have those instincts, they're nicer, and they like keep Batman out of like his misery guts all the time. Steph and Cassandra are good because they're because they give a good contrast. Yeah. Tim and Dick feel like real people. Jason is the problem also is that Jason is a fucking prick in a kind of a realistic way, and it irritates me. Like, Bruce, despite it all, has had a sad life. he's had a lot of trauma, and he's trying to deal, and he's maybe, and a little bit because he's rich, he doesn't he doesn't really he didn't really get the tools to deal with it correctly, and he's trying to deal with it in any way he can. Jason's just a prick. And I get it, Jason has also had stuff. But Jason's just a dick, and he constantly will be a dick to people. And, like, people will get it. Like, Bruce, like, agonizes over everything. Yeah. Well, they've kind of done that. Which is nice. I don't know if you haven't been reading the comics lately. Bruce has gotten a lot nicer over the last few years. Yeah. Bruce is that's, by the way, if you haven't read the comics lately, that's kind of the storyline, is that Bruce is dealing with his problems a lot better now, and I really love that. Like, so the whole storyline with Bruce lately has been that he and Selina Kyle are getting more have gotten a lot have been a lot like more romantically nicer, have their relationship has gotten a lot more serious, and it's caused Bruce to like lose a lot of the tension he's had in his life lately, and he's been dealing with his problems a lot better now. Yeah. I don't know. I hated Titans, by the way. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I hated Titans. The live action show. It's shitty and bad. I don't know. I will say that, like, it was very cringe. I will say part of the, like, okay, do you ever read Spider-Man comics? If you've never read Spider-Man comics, would it shock you to know that Spider-Man is maybe one of the most angsty characters in all of comics? And there are so many comics where it's just him constantly being sad of how fucked up his life is. And there's this huge problem with, like, Batman in that when he's written badly, he is very much he can be written badly in the same way that Spider-Man can be written badly, because, like, bad writers always take Batman in a couple of bad directions that I dislike. One of them is that he's angry and mad all the time, which is not really like the thing. He's more like a good written Batman is more that he's aloof and withdrawn, is really more of his actual tendency. That's usually how, like, Batman is displayed, as being kind of aloof and withdrawn and uncomfortable in a lot of ways with dealing with things. The story with Batman is he's always more comfortable in, like, alone investigating, like, villains. That's where he's more comfortable, and he doesn't and he gets and he's usually quite, like, not. And the people around him in his life tend to be people that are, like, connect to that. So the problem is, like, you get a lot of these, like, edgelords with Batman who's, like, they're like, well, Batman's angry and mean. No, like, Batman's aloof, mysterious, and disconnected. Those are his three, like, defining traits. Yes, I did. I like that. It actually. The last season was terrible. I will say that. I'll throw that out there. I thought the last season was really bad, but the first few seasons are quite good. Bad writers all the bad I feel I kind of have to yeah. Like bad Batman is always bad Batman always makes him an angry shithead who just hurts people to feel better, whereas like good writing always emphasizes that Bruce is somebody who is desperately trying to wrangle control of the world to make sure that nobody feels unsafe. And the logical way to do that in the DC universe is to become a superhero. And the problem is, I'll say this. I don't want to keep you distracted, but I'll throw this out there. The problem is a lot of like writers, I think especially, will use like Batman and Bruce as a way to vent, like be as edgy and angry as possible. In the same way, the reason I bring up Spider-Man, in the same way that like a lot of writers will use Spider-Man to be angsty, a lot of writers will use Bruce to like emphasize how mad and angry they are at everything. And anyways, so that's kind of my thing. So I think like I have this. I love Batman. Batman's one of my favorite characters of all time. So I have the thing, like when like Batman is written well, when Bruce is written well, he's kind of this tragic like guy who like, you know, he's sort of a tragic hero in a way because he's trying to in some way regain. Yeah, exactly. And he has trouble forming like, and because like, you know, his parents and the death of his parents and him witnessing that, he's nervous to form like relationships because of that, because he thinks that, because he's always worried that in the end, like he'll die, everybody will die and leave him, and he'll be alone, and that's like his biggest fear. So he tries. That's partly why he's so aloof and disconnected. Like a good Batman, like a story where like Batman's kind of a jerk, shouldn't be because he got angry and hit somebody. It's because he doesn't know, he holds back and doesn't express what he's really like thinking all the time, and he kind of just fades into his you know, he kind of fades into his obsessions of being Batman. And like the fear that he should feel, like his number one fear is that Bruce ultimately is trying to reshape the world into a better place. Like his whole idea is to eventually, for like Gotham to be the, you know, this shining metropolis that does not succumb to corruption and terribleness, and like that should be kind of his ideas. Anyways, I love Batman. I wanted to defend him, but it's like, anyways, that's how I would approach it, as a very unsure, uncertain person who just feels defeated. Yeah, exactly. Like the complaint should be like him as a mentor and as a father figure is that he's unclear in things. That he tends to not like. He tends to like just his tendency should be more to disconnect, not to like lash out in anger. Like Frank Miller was a great writer at one point in his life, and then he wrote really shitty Batman comics, and he wrote some really absolutely truly great Batman comics, and then he wrote a bunch of really shitty Batman comics, and I think, I don't know. And I think a lot of Batman writers really want to use like Batman as an excuse to be like angry and mean to people. Like the worst thing that happens to characters is when writers use like superheroes and stuff to enact their petty fantasies out into the world. Like the thing that ruined Spider-Man was an editor being angry that his marriage didn't work out, and him enacting that has like torpedoed Spider-Man comics for like almost a decade, for about a decade. And it's stuff like that. It's like, it's editors who want to like well, Spider-Man has to be young and carefree because, like, I got divorced and I don't want to, and I want him to reflect what I'm going through right now. Anyways. That's my defense of Batman. Yeah, and like Bruce is all about emotional control. And like the thing is, like, he's super heavily compartmentalized his life. Sorry. I'm bad like that. I'm bad like that. People always go like, "Well, I gotta go," and then I'm like, "Well, just one more thing. Let me talk to you about one more thing," and it ends up being like half an hour of discussion we have. Go, get writing done. Get writing done. That's important. I think that this drawing is actually kind of working out. I was going to draw. Actually. In fact, I'm going to take a little break and be back in a few. Okay. Yeah, that's all you can see. Anybody still here? go to 4 hours if nobody pops up. Okay. Well, it was good to be back, although technically I was back. I did it last night. If I'm still up later, I may come back on, but that probably isn't going to happen. Good seeing everybody. Drawing it out so it's exactly 4 hours, because I like it being that. And it's over